Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Play Some Video Games, the only podcast with more balls than a Pokemon Center. Tonight's episode featuring myself, of course, Kevin. We have Donnie with us as well, Nathan, and then our newest addition, Mr. Jason, on for the first time. So, just like everybody else that's been added on, let's start off with Jason. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, man, all the pressure to start the show off on the right foot.
Don't screw up.
It's too late. Yeah, I'm already here. No. Thanks for welcoming me on the team, guys. I'm happy to be here, ready to contribute. Hope I can keep things going with what you've got started. I've podcasting, if you want to call what I do podcasting, for the better part of 2 years now. I do a show, Flex to Pose, with my buddy Lucas, but kind of like same background with all of you guys. You know, we all came together through the MTTG forum, and all met that way, and I've been a gamer since as long as I can remember. Started with the NES and kind of migrated a bit there from that. You know, I had the Nintendo, and then I had a Genesis, and then I had a PlayStation, and then I had a GameCube, and then just kind of all over the place. And now I'm mostly on the PC these days, but just a 30-something with a fun hobby that I like to share with everyone else, you know?
Awesome. Why don't you share with us one of your favorite video game memories?
You know, still to this day, one of my favorites was I was in high school, and I was playing, it was on PC actually, and it was Alien vs. Predator was one of like my go-to things, and I had dial-up only at the time. And in my region, you couldn't even get a full 56K. I was at like barely 28.8 on my connection speed, but I was in an online clan for AVP, and you had, what was unique about that, you had species-based death matches. So you could have humans with the Marines, you had the Predators, and then you had aliens. And you could have a match with all three of those against each other, or, you know, you can limit that. But I joined a clan, and we had an inter-clan competition for species leaders, and I don't know, I mean, I didn't really play the game that much, but I had this awesome battle with this other guy for the leader of the Predator division, and it came down to, like, you know, you had, just like in the movies, you had like your shoulder cannon, and you would use energy. But I had, like, we were fighting it out. We ran out of our primary weapons. It was like my last possible shot before I would have ran out of energy with the shoulder cannon. I was like circle strafing around him, and then landed the shot, took him out, and it was just like that moment of like, yes, I did it, you know. And I was like probably 17, I think, at the time. It was so fun.
At that point, your dad's like pounding on the door, like, keep it down in there.
What the hell?
Yeah. All right. Well, once again, yeah, obviously we're pumped to have you on the team, so we're excited to have you, and obviously your experience there with Flux to Pose, so cool. All right, then. Topics, obviously every week we like to bring to the table a couple of specific topics to talk about, so I think we're going to kick it off with the whole mega craze of the Toys to Life. If you're not familiar with the term Toys to Life, basically that would include your Nintendo Amiibo, Skylander figures, Lego Dimension, Disney Infinity, basically this whole new concept in gaming. Well, not really that new, but within the last couple of years of you're going to buy a game for a little more than full retail, because we'll sell you a couple toys with it, and then we're going to sell you toys repeatedly just to unlock a character in the game, and you'll spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the same game, essentially. But it works. So before we kind of break down our own opinions on it and kind of what our experience with it and opinions, to date, to throw a couple numbers out there, Nintendo's Amiibo, as of a couple months ago, reportedly have sold over 21 million Amiibo units. So obviously it's a formula that works. The Amiibos, I'm pretty sure almost all of them retail for $12.99. So that's a ton of money there when you break it down, and honestly, it's been one of the big contributing factors to Nintendo's success right now and how they're kind of keeping their head above water with their lack of releases. Yeah.
21 million Amiibos. How many Wii U's have sold?
They actually just hit the 21 million mark around the same time they reported this. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty much every, one Amiibo for every unit, but we all know, and we'll probably talk about it when we start talking about our experience. Everybody has multiple.
They hit 21 million Wii U sold? I thought they were at like 14.
No, I think the article I read said they hit the 21 million. Somebody might want to fact check while I'm
I'll do it.
Yeah, the other thing, though, the even crazier number, and I didn't think it was this high at all, Skylander figures. Over 200 million, and there are different iterations of the game, which is
that's insane.
Nuts. Obviously, they've been doing a lot longer than the Amiibo craze and even Disney Infinity or Lego Dimensions, which came out this year. But it just shows that obviously they were the first ones to kind of jump out with this, and they found the formula, and it's working. They're making money off of it one way or another. My personal experience with them, I did have the original Skylanders game as well as their second one. I believe it was Giants. My kids absolutely loved them. The hook that it was for me growing up as a kid, I was a big collector of action figures, so I loved that hunt and trying to find, like, hey, I need to get this. Yeah, it was wrestling figures for me. Like, I had to get this character or that character. So the hunt is what hooked me. So the second Skylanders came out, and it was like, oh, wait, I have to get all these things. So I need to hunt these down and find out when they're being released and where I can get them. So that kind of hooked me into getting them all, quote unquote, for my kids to play with overall. It's true. Gameplay wise, it's an okay game. I don't think it was anything that was super fantastic. It was fun. Played very much kind of like a Diablo 3 almost when you broke it down, the actual gameplay style. From there and there on, my kids then decided they wanted to do Disney Infinity when that came out. So we did Disney Infinity 1, Disney Infinity 2. Collected most of those characters. We haven't jumped on the Star Wars thing yet. I just kind of introduced them to Star Wars. So we want it. We just haven't done it yet. And then obviously I have some Amiibo figures, which I'll let somebody else talk a little bit more about Amiibo, and we'll probably chime in. But so I definitely have a bunch of these things sitting around the house, and when I sit back and think about it, if a game charged me, let's say for the instance of like Skylanders and Disney Infinity, if a game were to charge me DLC $12.99 for a character, I would never be doing it. But for some reason, you sell me a little hunk of plastic, and we're all over it. But so it works. So I mean, I don't know. Nathan, what's your take on the whole Toys to Life craze?
So here's my thing. At first, I thought it was ridiculous. Skylanders came along. I looked from the sidelines, and I was like, ha! Look at those things. I'm never going to fall for that. And then Disney Infinity came along, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. They're kind of getting into that Toys for Life game. Compelling characters. They got their own IP. They're going to use that. That's cool. But I won't get into that. Even then, Marvel came along, and I was like, those figures look kind of neat. I do collect figures, and they're not that bad priced, and it's a game, but no, I'll stay aside. And then Disney Infinity 3.0 with Star Wars figures came out, and I had to succumb to the dark side. And I have all of the Star Wars Disney Infinity 3.0 figures, and it because I was a fan of Marvel and am a fan of Marvel, I picked up a lot of the Marvel characters as well. So now I have every Star Wars character except for the light effects variant ones, which are stupid. But I have all of the individual characters and a number of the Marvel ones, and I love them. Like, they're great figures just to have because they're actually nice figures, honestly, sitting on the shelves by themselves. As far as Amiibo goes, when that was first announced, I was pretty excited. And I decided right early that I was going to pre-order all the figures, I was going to go all in, I was going to get every character that they released. And I did that up until the point that they released, or re-released characters for, was it Mario Party 7000?
Yeah, or 10, or Mario Party 10, one or the other.
Because they re-released these figures for Mario Party 10. It was a different pose for Mario and Luigi and Peach. But I already had these characters. I didn't want them again. Yeah, give me Toad. I don't want to rebuy Mario in a different pose just because it's a new game. I just want you guys to release one of these characters. When these characters are all released, then you can give me a new pose for a different character. But at that point, I kind of cut ties with Amiibo. All of my Amiibo, except for I have one Marth that is unpackaged and actually is like leveled up to 50 on Smash Brothers. And I have actually a second Marth downstairs from the first run that is in a container, like a big Rubbermaid container, with the rest of my Amiibo that I still got to figure out what to do with. But I stopped collecting them because they started re-releasing them. The Skylanders figures, I don't care about that. I don't have any allure for that. The Disney Infinity stuff, if it's Star Wars, I will own it, and I will open it, and I will play with it. The Disney Infinity, or the Amiibo stuff, I wanted to have just because they were cool characters. I didn't know, I knew that I would never use all of them, but I thought that they were cool, and they were well-done pieces, and I wanted them in my collection. That's my thoughts on Toys for Life.
Cool. Jake actually had reached out and let me know that the Wii U has sold 12.6 million, and the Wii itself is over 101 million. So yeah, there's actually more Amiibo sold than Wii U consoles by double.
Yep, almost 2-to-1.
Yep, which is insane. So I totally agree with you on the whole quality of the figures. I think definitely the Disney Infinity did the characters really well, even just the Disney licensed characters versus even the Marvel and obviously the Star Wars. So and Amiibo, with the exception of the Mario Party ones, I wasn't that crazy about the quality on those ones. But all the Smash Brother ones, the Splatoon ones, all the other ones, those got me hooked. I think they're great showpieces, if nothing else, even if you don't use them for what they're intended. I think the quality of them is really good, and it definitely makes you feel a little bit better about spending the kind of money for them. But yeah, the Skylander ones definitely aren't the same quality. Even on the newer, the Superchargers, which was this last holiday season's release too, the characters are a little bit better quality than they had been, but they still don't come anywhere near what Disney Infinity is putting out, as well as the Amiibo characters themselves. Donnie, what's your take?
My take is I own 35 Amiibo. I have 2 children. I have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old. And when Amiibo was announced, they lost their friggin' minds. We totally bought into Smash. And my son, in particular, who loves Smash, probably way more than everybody else in the entire house, he leveled up every Amiibo that I bought him. And we started off really small. I would kind of piggyback off of Nathan's topic. We bought Disney Infinity 2.0 for the kids. And I sat down and I kind of played it. And I really love Wreck-It Ralph. And that was really the ones that we went for. I got Penelope and Wreck-It Ralph, and I was like, this is going to be awesome because that movie was awesome. And I sat down and I played with that game, and I was like, this game is terrible. So obtuse. I mean, I've played Skyrim, and I've played Zeldas, and I've played Fallouts, and I've played so many games, and I've never felt more lost in a game than I did when I first sat down with it, Infinity 2.0. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what the toy box was. I didn't realize you had to download other levels, and they were terrible levels. I was like, this is awful. This is an awful game. So, like, we literally spent hours in the toy box just chasing each other around in a 1v1 shoot 'em up, where I would just run around and pick up my kids and throw them off the sides of stuff. And then I would
What? Hold on a second. Do we need to call some protection agencies there?
Yeah, there's our sound clip right there. I love running around, grabbing my kids, and throwing them off the edge.
So we did that, and I was like, this is terrible, and we're not going to buy a lot of stuff for this, and we didn't. I think I own like 4 of those characters. And then Amiibo happened, and I bought a couple. And I'd say a couple. I bought like maybe 5 at launch. I bought Link, which we don't even have anymore, because that Link character, that Link Amiibo, is awful. He's really small, and he's tiny, and he's looking at the ground, and he's on some floating yellow stuff in the middle of the air. I mean, it's just a really bad figure. And we, unlike you guys, we don't even have the original Smash, that one. We don't even have the original Princess or Mario, because unlike what you guys just said, we think the Mario Party 10 versions of those characters are better. They're facing you, like they're looking directly at you. They've got these awesome, cool little stands. I mean, they look more like full-figured characters, especially Peach. Peach is big, as opposed to being tiny. She's huge. Like, she's as big as Bowser. So we actually traded in for the Mario Party 10 characters because we had to have Toad, and we didn't want Toad to be by himself. And you see where I'm going? I bought 5, and then I bought another one, and then I bought another one, and then Mario Party 10 came out, and I bought another one, and I traded in for another one, and then Christmas came, and my kids wanted 4, so I bought them 6. And then another one came out, and I own 35 Smash characters, if you include, and I'm counting the Yarn Yoshis twice because I own a green and a pink one. And
you have the big one? The giant one?
We didn't get the giant one because they were sold out at Christmas, but I totally would have bought one. And I have 2 on pre-order. I've got Rob, the Famicom Rob, and I've got Ryu. And I'm totally buying Bayonetta and Cloud. Like, they at least have 2 more Amiibos sold out of me. Now,
I will buy Cloud as well.
I mean, I think everybody's going to buy Cloud. I mean, we just said Amiibo sold 2-to-1 on Wii U's. And I did double-check that, and he's right. At Nintendo's investor meeting, they said that they sold 12.8 million, and that was February 2nd. So I think the number that most people are going with, about 13 million, that's almost 10 million less than the GameCube sold. I mean, the Wii U is literally Nintendo's worst failure when it comes to hardware. But
Virtual Boy.
Well, okay. So do you count that as? I mean, you count that as a platform. I mean, I count that as a peripheral. That's their Kinect. So, but with that said, I mean, Amiibo keeps them profitable. And for that, to be honest with you, I love it because if it didn't keep them profitable, we wouldn't have a cloud action figure. And the one thing that I did write down in my notes when we started talking about this topic was last year when everybody was talking about their Game of the Years, and a lot of categories that people like to bring up are multi-platform Game of the Year or family-friendly Game of the Year, and my Game of the Year, as big a Nintendo fan as I am, was Disney Infinity 3.0. So for as bad as Disney Infinity 2.0 is, Disney Infinity 3.0 is amazing. That game is very easy to get into. It has a very straightforward campaign. It's got very easy community curated, created levels that you can get into. It's all Star Wars, which everybody loves. It's got X-Wing fights, and it reminds me so much of the N64 Star Wars games. I absolutely loved that game. So we bought that game, and I bought 2 characters because I was like, we're not going to do this again. This game sucks. And I sat down and I played the game, and I was like, this game's great. So we bought 5 more. And the reason we bought 5 more is because it unlocks DLC. And we talked last week about downloadable content for Fallout and downloadable content. You know, DLC and season passes are such a rage with like every game's got a $50 DLC. You know what? If I'm going to give you $50 for downloadable content, give me a 3-inch statue that makes me feel good about my purchase. I know a lot of people. I wouldn't say a lot of people. I know the trend is for people to go, well, Amiibo doesn't do anything. Well, I would ask you, do you own Mario Maker? Do you own Splatoon? Because we own 35 Amiibo, and let me tell you, my kids love Mario Maker because we own 35 Amiibo. Because they can make Mario World 1.1, because they're not very good level creators. And then they can play it as 35 different characters, and they create levels where you get to get every costume. So they literally sit there for hours, and they will plug in each one because they want to play as everybody. And the Link with the new stuff, which we'll save. I know we're going to talk about Zelda, Twilight Princess, and all this stuff that it's got with Amiibo. I think they're really kind of catching on and finding new ways to use Amiibo, and I love the fact that we can use them with like every game that we bought. So as a Wii U owner, as one of the 13 million owners of this terrible console apparently that they have, I've really enjoyed it. I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of most of them. I'm really happy that now they're easier to find because I am one of the folks that imported Amiibo from Japan because I was afraid I couldn't get them at Christmas. So they were available in Japan, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to save myself the time and the effort, and I'll just import them. I'll pay a little extra. It was about $5 more on retail for each one, and I got the kids what they wanted, and they loved them. And as Nathan said, I mean, I think a big part of reason why Amiibo is so popular is, unlike Star Wars, there aren't Mario action figures. There aren't Yoshi action figures. This is really the first time you can buy a Mario toy that has any consequence. And I know for us, like, we have a shelf. I keep looking over here because I keep looking at them. We have a shelf on the wall that I installed on the wall for our Amiibo. And they're literally like decorations. We just put them out in our little game room because we love Nintendo characters, and we're happy to look at them.
I love the Amiibo figures. That's part of the reason why I went in on them, too, is because some of them aren't that great, but there are some that are just really cool. Like, I think Donkey Kong is one of my favorites. That's actually he's really cool. I love the Marth one, obviously, but there's just really cool. Samus is really like a well done figure. That's part of the reason why I do like those so much is because Nintendo had never done anything like this before, where you could get all these characters, in a physical form like that, and that is one of the biggest allures of Amiibo to me personally.
I'll tell you, though, you haven't hit rock bottom, though, until you own Animal Crossing Amiibo, and I think I got 5 or 6 of those, so...
I have Villager.
Okay, see, Donnie's up Villager, so...
I got 5! We own Amiibo Festival. Like, you know what?
Donnie will always have your back.
That game's not that bad. That game's pretty good.
No, that game, you have to take it for what it is, which as much as people want to knock Mario Party lately, Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is probably the closest iteration to what playing a board game is, but on digital, because there is no point to it. It's like playing the game of life. You just go around, whoever got the most stuff at the end, you win. That's all it is. But if you like these characters, it hooks you in. And it's an excuse to buy more Amiibo.
It's better than Mario Party 10 in my opinion.
I didn't play Mario Party 10. I played the ones before it, so I dodged that one after seeing reviews. Question for you though, Donnie. You said Disney Infinity 2.0. Did you play it on the Wii U or did you play that on a different console?
We played it on Wii U, and my problem with it wasn't its performance. The game performs admirably well. It was with the menu system and the organization that game has. I just couldn't find my way around, to be honest with you. I kept diving into menus and diving, and I was like, I have no idea really where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do. And at least for us, we found a much better solution in Disney 3.0. I definitely feel like that game's way more straightforward for somebody that was new to the game. I mean, granted, I jumped in Disney Infinity 2.0, so I didn't get 1.0. Like, we just jumped in thinking, oh, well, this is a kid's game. We'll know our way around. I had no idea what to do, and neither do my kids, and they didn't play it because of it. Like, I tried to help them. I even looked up, like, a guide, and I was like, well, this thing says to go here. And we went there, and my son looked at me like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And I was like, well, I can't help you outside of that.
That's weird. I don't know. I didn't have those same issues. But anyway, moving on. Let's let Jason talk for a little bit. What's your take on the whole Toys to Life craze?
I would say I had kind of a similar reaction to most of you, especially you did, Kevin, starting off. And, that first exposure was Skylanders, and I kind of thought it was kind of a gimmick in a way. Maybe you could say a cash grab as well, but I thought, if kids are enjoying it, that's fine, that's awesome. And then I thought, okay, I don't think I really paid a whole lot of attention though until Amiibo was announced. And it's like, okay, I have a console that this is going to work for. I have an attachment. There's nostalgia for all these characters, but I was like, well, am I really going to use one? And then it was like for my birthday. My birthday was in August, right after the line first came out. My buddy bought me my first one, which was Link, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I kind of want some more. So then I have 4, so I've pretty well reserved. I just kind of went for the series, the titles that really spoke to me, and I still haven't taken Falco out of the box, and for no particular reason. He's just still in the box. That's like my favorite Smash character, and he's still in the box. I need to #free Falco. But yeah, I guess I haven't ever been too concerned with the functionality because I like you guys. I just like them for little figures. They just right now they're down here on my PC desk, which is in a complete opposite room of my Wii U. So they just are adornment really. But I guess I'd like to see some different implementation than what we have now. But for the price point and what you get, I'm pretty happy with it.
It makes sense. I agree. I think for all the older quote unquote older gamers like us, the nostalgia factor is probably the biggest thing. And it's just like, hey, these things are just cool to look at, regardless of what they do. If they do something else, cool, that's bonus.
Right.
I know, like Donnie had said with the Mario Maker, all the different costumes unlocking. I went through and I played everything in Yoshi's Woolly World as we talked about last week, and getting all the Amiibos, unlocking a different Yoshi when you had those Amiibos too. That was another little feature. Like, all right, cool, we got to see what this Yoshi looks like, what that Yoshi looks like. I didn't even use half of them, but I had to put all my Amiibos on there so I saw what Yoshi turned into down the line.
So did my kids.
Yeah. It definitely was the thing. So I don't think they're going anywhere. I think we're going to see more and more items like that come out. Lego Dimensions obviously has done some pretty big things. I didn't jump into that primarily because it was the most
tempting, though, man, isn't it?
It is. The licenses that they have are really cool. And the only things I've heard on the negative side of it is obviously it costs a little bit more to get into than the other ones have been, but there's been plenty of sales. But it's, from what I've seen, that there's not a lot of content behind them, even with the expansion packs. It doesn't add a lot from what I heard. So I'm thinking as long as they do a Lego Dimensions 2, which I think is probably going to be a no-brainer, I think the second time around is going to be a little bit better, and we'll see more of that. Disney Infinity, I don't think that's going anywhere. Skylanders, I mean, 200 million, they're not going anywhere. And Nintendo certainly isn't going to pull out of this either. So I think if anything, we might see more iterations announced at E3 this year of different, maybe different franchises jumping in.
Before we leave the topic,
yeah.
I wanted to broach an idea that I've kind of had for a long time. One of my dearest gaming friends is a manager of a GameStop, and I constantly tell him, that GameStop's in trouble because the game market is going digital. They bought ThinkGeek, and they're selling all this merchandise, and I've often broached the idea of, what if what if game makers don't get out of the merchandise area, but they just get out of the physical game distribution? But what if game purchases kind of all become Amiibo-like physical purchases in the future? What if you go buy a Fallout statue that comes with a code for the game? Or what if you go and buy, a Metal Gear statue or a poster or a print? What if you went to a physical store and you got a physical item that also came with a digital code for the game? Is that a way for the game maker, the publisher, to still sell you a physical item and sell you the game without you feeling like you're just buying a digital product? Because I do understand that there is a lot of people out there that when they give you money, they want to put something in their hands.
Yeah,
I'll chime in on that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting concept. Personally, the Smash DLC, in my mind, if they charge everybody like $5 more for the Amiibo, and you bought the Cloud Amiibo, let's say at like $20, I think they'd still sell a ton. And you slap that Amiibo on there, and bang, there's the stage, there's a character, you got it. I think that actually would help them sell more DLC, in my opinion, but give the Amiibo a little more bang for the buck. That's just me anyway. Sorry to jump on you, Nathan.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, with touching on which we already did earlier with Halo, the Halo 5 limited edition, or whatever it was, the super big, like $250 edition anyway, or $150, whatever it was, came with a digital code for the game. It was some physical stuff, a physical case for the game even, but a digital code for the game. And there was backlash on that. I don't know the percentage of people that really were complaining about it, but there was enough that Microsoft said that, hey, we understand that you want a physical copy of the game, so send us your code, and we will send you a disc. So they've kind of tried this, at least Microsoft has, from this point of view, and I don't know, if you're buying a physical thing anyway, I think that you're already of the mentality that you want a physical disc. I don't think that people are set yet to go to a store and buy a code and just have a piece of paper or something that then turns into the game that they download later on. People are still the mentality that I go to a store and I buy a product, I buy something, and then that something goes in my console or in my PC, and that something that I bought from the store plays. I think people aren't quite to the level that they should be yet.
Well,
for that, Tony.
Unfortunately, the Wii U, I think, is the last console or the last hardware that actually plays from the disc or the media that you buy. Everything else seems to just install these days. So I was more or less thinking, projecting going forward, if digital starts to eat away, if we ever get a PS5 without a disc, without a console, without a disc drive in it, how can they still have a retail presence while still distributing digitally? And I think that Amiibo method is at least a viable stopgap.
I agree. I think we'll have to wait and see what comes down the line, but I definitely think that that's a possibility with certain things. Maybe not for a whole full game, but I think for a DLC, at least, I think that's, and to me, I think it's probably an easy fix. I think Nintendo can do that quite easily if they wanted to. The Amiibo unlocks features anyway, so why not unlock something else, especially if the content is already installed in the game. So we know at least some of the Smash characters, people were able to find it by hacking the disc, find out some of the characters. Mm-hmm. So you think at least those ones would have been unlockable with the Amiibo. Like I said, charge us a couple bucks more, $5, $10 more, whatever. We'd still buy it and get more out of it in our minds. But yeah. All right, I think it's probably time to move on to the next big topic. So as we all should know, if you're a gamer, really, if you're any sort of gamer, that the Legend of Zelda just recently celebrated its 30th anniversary. I believe on Monday is what we ended up finding out. So we couldn't just ignore that. So we want to touch base on basically what the Legend of Zelda was to us, what games we played, maybe our favorite Legend of Zelda game, the core franchise itself, not counting the wacky one-offs or the not really related to the quote-unquote storyline of the Legend of Zelda. There's been 16 official games put into the Zelda storyline, spanning obviously from the original NES to the most recent ones being on the 3DS, and not counting the upcoming Wii U or Wii U/NX release of the next Legend of Zelda game there too. I can speak on it myself, but I'll hold off on that. So why don't we start with Donnie this time? Legend of Zelda, maybe talk about your history of Zelda, your favorite game, why it's your favorite.
I don't think we have enough time to start with Donnie.
Yeah, you really want to start with Donnie on this subject?
Yeah, we're You know what? 2 words. Wind Waker. Go on PlaySomeVideoGames.com. You can read Donnie's review. So, Nathan, how do you feel about The Legend of Zelda?
No, go ahead, Donnie. I'll save mine till after you.
I love The Legend of Zelda. It's the reason why I play video games. I hold nothing back when it comes to that series. The Wind Waker is my favorite game of all time. I think its definitive edition is on Wii U. If you are one of the lucky people, one of the lucky 13 million that have that console, buy that game, play that game. That game is fantastic. The dungeons are great, the story is great, but by far and large, that game is beautiful to stare at. I love graphics. You'll hear me say that a lot. This game is gorgeous. This game is beautiful. I love turning on my TV and seeing something that's really pretty to stare at and interact with. And the Wind Waker, at least in my opinion, takes the cake. The art style, that cell shading, that cartoon look. You feel like you're just in a Toy Story movie or something. I mean, it is fantastic. Since we started this generation, there are very few games that I've seen on a 60-inch television in full HD scan that look as pretty as the Wind Waker HD does on Wii U. And that's saying a lot, considering that the Wii U doesn't have as much to work with. It's just the visuals, the content. I don't want to sit here and just rant about Wind Waker over and over again. The game, as I mentioned in our first episode, the game that really got me into gaming. I had games, I played games before, but the game that hooked me and made me say, you know what, I love this and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I really think we are the generation that will continue to play video games when we're 55 and 60. Like when we're in the retirement home, like we'll have consoles or portables, we'll play video games, unlike those of us who came before us that, aged out and went off and did great things. But the Ocarina of Time is the reason why I love to play video games. I caught that game and I played it forever and I've beat it a bunch of times and I love that game. And we have another game very similar to Ocarina of Time on the cusp of releasing, and that's next week. Twilight Princess HD is releasing on Wii U, and I am so excited. I'm so excited I might call in sick just to play the game. I'm pretty sure my boss doesn't listen to the podcast, so I feel safe somewhat.
Just take a personal day. It's okay. You can play those.
I mean, so the reason why I love the Wii U and the reason why I have staunchly defended it against all detractors is because that is the console to own if you like Zelda, point blank, period. It's got Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time versus Virtual Console. It's got Wind Waker and now Twilight Princess in the best versions you could possibly want to play them. It's got the Minish Cap. It's got Link to the Past. It's got NES. It's got SNES. It's got them all. Plus, we are going to get The Legend of Zelda, NX, Wii U, whatever you want to call it. It's going to come to Wii U. It's going to be at Swan Song. I mean, just really, if there's a Zelda game out there that you love, that you want to play, you can play it on Wii U, even to the GBA DS versions, Spirit Tracks. That game released on Virtual Console in Europe, and I guarantee you it's going to come stateside before the end of the year. I mean, it's just going to happen. So all of the games are there, and that's why I love it. The other reason why I love the Wii U is Zelda was built for dual-screen gaming. I know Nintendo completely screwed up the Wii U's message when they came out. They started saying asynchronous game. Do you guys remember that ridiculous E3 where they said asynchronous gameplay? I don't know why the Wii U is called the Wii U and not the Home DS or the DS Home or whatever. That's all it is. It's a DS between your TV and the tablet. But when it comes to Zelda games, having your inventory on a tablet that you can quick select, having your map on a tablet that you can reference quickly without pausing the game, having the ability to do all these different things without having to stop the experience makes Zelda so much better. I'm so excited to play Twilight Princess. I remember it was leaked early, so for those of you that are really in the know, you probably weren't as excited when the Nintendo Direct broke the news that Twilight Princess HD was coming. I also know that the Twitter reaction was, oh, this game doesn't look HD enough. I would encourage you to go back and play Twilight Princess on your Wii. I played it on GameCube. I prefer to play it with a controller. I don't think Wii Motion was good. I think motion controls were a fantastic revolution of gaming. I love Wii Sports, one of my favorite games of all time, but it doesn't really, in my opinion, I didn't like playing Zeldas that way. I don't sit there and waggle my hand back and forth. It makes my wrist hurt. I like playing on a controller, and I think the gamepad is a perfect controller for playing Zelda, and I cannot wait to get back into Twilight Princess HD. I've recently played Twilight Princess on Wii. I actually went to Goodwill and bought an old SD TV because it looked so bad on my HD TV. I was like, I can't even play this game like this. I'll go get an old TV and play it, and it still didn't look good. When that game came out in 2006, correct me, somebody? 2006?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure. I think
Yeah,
it came out in 2006. When that game came out on GameCube and Wii, a similar situation that we currently have, that game was pushing the visuals of its day, and when that game came out, everybody thought it was a masterpiece. It's very similar to Ocarina of Time. It's got a lot more depth to it. It's got a great villain in Zant. A really good story. If you played Ocarina of Time, it's very familiar. I think as it's aged, because that game ages so bad because it looks so bad now. You fast forward 10 years, I mean, that game is hard to look at these days. I think generally the reception has soured on that game as it's aged. I mean, when that game came out, don't let any of the reviews that come out next week throw you off. When that game came out, GameSpot gave it like a 10. IGN gave it a 10. Like, everybody gave it a 10 because that game was awesome. It was the Zelda game that everybody at the time wanted. They wanted a deep, enriching Zelda RPG, and Twilight Princess, I mean, that's a 40-hour game if you know what you're doing. I mean, that's a game. And when I talked to people then, back when I was a senior in high school in 2006, everybody was, oh, this game's amazing. And when I talk to people now, they're like, well, that game's not very good. And what I've kind of realized when I dig into those people and I go, how long did you play it? And they go, well, I kind of quit after the first sample. I played for about 8 hours. And I go, yeah, that's about right. That game starts really slow. I mean, it's a slog. You got to put 10 hours in that game before you start reaping what you get out of it. And that's saying a lot because you can beat Wind Waker in about 10 to 12 hours. But when you get into hour 20 of Twilight Princess, I mean, there's a lot of game there. I love the horse mechanics. I love running through Hyrule Field and fighting all of the people next to you as all of the little minions and everything start to crowd you and you start to chase people. It reminds me a lot, if you guys remember the time when we were in high school or when I was in high school, it has a Lord of the Rings feel to it, like in a big way. It's very like mystical and like these open fields and like these little villages, these giant castles, and you're riding horseback. So I love the game. I don't want to say I could keep talking. I wanted to kind of when we broach this topic, even though the Wind Waker is my favorite game, I wanted to at least give Twilight Princess a little hype for next week because it's a special game and I'm very excited for it to come to Wii U. I think Wii U owners should be grateful that they're getting it, considering that the Zelda Wii U was delayed. And again, it further establishes the Wii U as the console to own if you like Zelda. And as I mentioned before, shameless plug, the Wii U is the last console, in my opinion, that's going to run games right off the disc. You put it in, it's going to play it right off the disc. And for that matter, especially with all the Zelda love that it has, if you kind of compare it to GameCube, I think if you're one of those 13 million people that bought a Wii U, I think that's going to be a hot collector's item in 5 to 10 years. I think you'll see a lot of people are going to want to come back to that. Because if we start to go further digital, the Wii U is going to be kind of that last stand, in my opinion. And I think it's very special.
Once again, Donnie succeeds in making me feel like I'm 80 years old. All right, so Twilight Princess did come out in 2006.
Yes.
As Donnie said, he was a senior in high school, whereas I graduated college 3 years prior to that. So, you forgot the best point about Twilight Princess being re-released, though, Donnie. It comes with an Amiibo.
It does come with an Amiibo that works with Mario Maker. You get to play as Minna and Wolf Link in Mario Maker.
Exactly. So there's another bonus there for you. It's funny, too, the perception of Zelda over time. So like you said, I think a lot of people did remember Twilight Princess as a game that has not aged well. So I think the HD remake is definitely going to do a lot for that. You touched on it a little bit, though, where people are clamoring for this type of Zelda game because of Ocarina of Time before, and they wanted a darker, more mature Zelda game because everybody hated Wind Waker. And over time, now it's revered as, hey, it's one of the best Zelda games, and I'm on board with it now. I was one of the people who did not have a problem with the stylistic change at the time, but there was massive outcry in the gaming community when they unveiled that this is the next Zelda game. Everybody kind of looked at it like, what the heck are you doing? But now everyone's kind of over it. But I remember when that first came out and they first announced it, people were completely outraged. So since I'm already talking, I'll just go next. So out of the 16 Legend of Zelda games and the core storyline titles, I have played 12 out of the 16. So there's only a couple I haven't touched on. The Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons back out on Game Boy Color back in the day. Did not play Spirit Tracks. Didn't get a chance to play Skyward Sword, which I'm hoping they do a remake of that eventually. The only reason I didn't play that is because it was so late in the Wii's life cycle that I had already moved on at that point. So, like, here I'm getting ready for the Wii U, and they're like, here's a new Zelda game. I'm like, meh, I'll wait. And then I haven't played Triforce Heroes, the newest one on the 3DS. I don't know, it just doesn't seem to appeal to me the same way the others do. But I remember playing the original Legend of Zelda and on the NES back in the day when they came out, so it's always been one of my favorite series. My pick for the best game out of the whole bunch, though, was Ocarina of Time. Just when that came out, there was nothing like this ever. So I know they've re-released it a million times, and it came out on N64, re-released on GameCube. It was downloadable on the Wii. They put it out on the 3DS recently. So I still remember the most being the N64, the original one with that weird controller and everything, and just being in awe of the scope of that game. You know, nowadays we have these massive games like your Fallouts, your Skyrims, where the worlds are huge. This was our version of the huge world that we had never had in gaming prior to this. That was the first game that really opened up this giant landscape, and then also the land even changed depending on what time frame you're in. Were you in the future or were you young Link at the time too? So it was definitely something groundbreaking. It's something I've always loved. Like I said, I've played most of them and beaten most of them. I still begrudgingly haven't fully beaten Wind Waker, so I'm working on that. I do have it on my Wii U, so I'm playing the best version in Donnie's opinion, but I just have to get through it essentially. But it's always been a fan favorite of mine, and I have some little fun facts, but I'll do that later after we all kind of talk of our opinions. So, Jason, why don't you go for it?
I just have to start out with this. It's the Legend of Zelda. It's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. That's all I'll do for you. But
for those of you who don't know, please go on YouTube and look up the original Legend of Zelda commercial, because
I've killed Donnie.
The fact that this series has continued to sell as many titles as they had despite that commercial advertising it is amazing. So please, YouTube that. We'll post a link when we post this episode out too, so you can see it, because you have no idea. But anyway,
sometimes people just can't get out of their own way. I think that's often the case.
That's true. So I started off. I did play the original on NES. It wasn't really my thing at the time. I mean, I was like maybe 7 or 8, so it wasn't just a game that I didn't like it because I just didn't really understand what I was doing. It was a little bit above me at the time, so I never really went back to the series until, oddly enough, it wasn't until Wind Waker. That was like no, I take that back. I played Link's Awakening on my Game Boy Color. I had that, and that was my first that I actually played all the way through. But I had some friends that had a Super NES, and so when I had the time, I would play A Link to the Past. Or, oddly enough, my grandparents had, the typical Florida retirement community set up, and one of my friend's grandparents actually had a Super Nintendo because she was a big Tetris fan, and they had Zelda, so I'd go over to their trailer and play Link to the Past when I could. But Link's Awakening was the first one I played all the way through, and then I, much like Donnie, I could ramble about Wind Waker to infamy, because that was the first one I had played through, and I remember being kind of the same thing that like Kevin, you mentioned about people being outraged because they had that tech demo came out first for GameCube, and it showcased this is what Zelda could look like, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, did you see that thing of Link fighting Ganon? It was amazing. And then all of a sudden we're like, nope, this is what you got, this big misdirection. And everyone was like outraged, but I remember being like, you know what, I still want to play it. And I did, I loved it, and I think it's just, that was like a time in my life, I think like any game, it connects to what a time in your life, what's going on, can really connect you to a game. So I remember that's when I had my first apartment, and I didn't have like TV or internet for a while. So I remember I was just like, oh, I'm just playing Wind Waker, and still like that opening theme of Wind Waker. That is like one of my favorite of all time video game music themes. I love that song. All the OC remixes, I could go on just about that, but yeah, it wasn't until I think after that point I went and I had a DS and I bought the original for that, played through that, and I don't know, I've just been a fan since then. I have, Triforce Heroes. I borrowed from my buddy. I have Twilight Princess, and I just can't stand playing on the Wii, just because my controller and my Wiimote and nunchuck are garbage, and then it looks like garbage, and I think I probably put about 10 hours into it though, but it's just not the thing. So I am looking forward at some point getting HD remake. I just don't know when that's going to be. But I do have I've got The Link Between Worlds coming on the way. I'll be playing next week, so looking to jump into that. And yeah, it's just a great series. I like everything about it. I mean, I don't know. It's Zelda. I mean, it's like a classic. It's a benchmark of gaming, and there's so much that series has helped push other series, and ideas and concepts have been taken from that. And yeah, it's Zelda. I mean, it's got a rap song. How many games have a rap song? I mean,
Pokemon
and
has
of
a rap
course,
song.
What about the infamous? Everyone thought the one the Rock cover. Everyone assumed that System of a Down made.
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
It was all the rumor, going around on
I forgot about that.
It's like, oh, did you know System of a Down made this Zelda cover?
Of course they did.
Link, he'll come to a town, come to save the Princess Zelda.
The one thing that I would hate, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, the first Zelda game I played was Link to the Past. I think a lot of people's first Zelda game was A Link to the Past, and that, with that being the case, I think that's why I love Wind Waker so much. My wife brings up a lot. She thinks that Link should be a boy. She doesn't like the Link games where he's a man and he's running around in this grisly world. She likes the story of the boy that overcomes, all adversity and saves the world. She thinks it's cute and it's charming. And when she says things like that, I constantly sit back and I think, that is kind of like the classic video game trope, right? Mm-hmm. Like the gamer nerd, this little boy that can't do anything, that rises to the occasion and saves the day. I mean, that's kind of the underdog story of video games, and in that way, I think that's why a big reason why I really love Wind Waker, because you play as the boy, and he doesn't grow up, and he's not a man, and he's not overpowering, and he's not a badass. He's just a kid, and he's got to fight his own fear, and he's got courage, and he travels the world, and he sees everything, and it's a really good tale.
That's a good point too. And after we let Nathan speak his piece on Zelda, I have a little factoid, if you will, about Link that will go directly in line with what you're saying as far as Link child versus adult. So anyway, Nathan, if you're still awake, if you're still with us, yeah, why don't you give us your take on the Legend of Zelda series?
So I feel like I shouldn't have gone last because you guys all spoke so eloquently about Link and lineage, and I think I should have gravitated to Link. I think I should have really liked the character of Link and the story of Zelda. It's just I never really identified with the character. I identified more with Star Fox and Fox McCloud than I do with Link. It's so weird because I feel like I love the setting. I love the world that is vast, and there's so much mythology behind it. There's so much there, and I love story. But I don't know what it is that I never really gravitated towards the character of Link. The only game in the Zelda franchise that I've completed was, I think it was called Link's Awakening.
Oh, no!
Game Boy.
But hey, I enjoyed it. I liked that game. I beat it multiple times because that was at a point in my life when the Game Boy was my main gaming respite. It was my console of choice, really. Mm-hmm. That's where I could play, and that's the game that I chose to play most likely on my Game Boy was that game. And I remember when I had my Nintendo 64, I never owned Link's Awakening. I never owned Majora's Mask. Oh. And I always wanted to play those games, but I never did, and I don't know why. Like, I never sought them out. When I had my GameCube, I bought Wind Waker on my GameCube, and I played a little bit of it. I never got more than 2 maybe hours into it. I think I sailed along the lines of, well, this is cool, but I want to go back and play something else. I want to go play Smash Bros. I wasn't mature enough, I don't think, at that point to really understand the story. I think if I went back and played it now, it would be a different opinion. But, you know, when the Wii came along, I bought Twilight Princess, and I just didn't enjoy playing it with the waggle stick and everything else. I was like, I don't want to play a game like this. And I have Wind Waker HD on my Wii U, so I need to go back and play it at some point. And I don't understand myself and why I don't gravitate towards the character, towards the Zelda story, because I feel like it is everything that I would want in a video game. It is the quintessential start as a young boy, progress to a hero, blow up your own Death Star, defeat Ganon or whoever, and then that's what it's the true hero's journey, like in a video game. And I don't understand, honestly, why I've never played a game to completion other than the one on the Game Boy. I feel like I would love them. I don't get it. Maybe you guys can answer the question for me. I don't know why I just don't gravitate toward. The most Link I have played on a console is playing as Link or Toon Link in Smash Brothers. That's the most I've played.
When was the last time you tried to play one, Nathan?
Last time I actually tried to play Link was probably Twilight Princess on the Wii.
Ugh, that's why.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Why?
I mean, I think Link says it best himself. I mean, how do you not follow along that storyline? I mean, clearly he's one of the most outspoken characters Nintendo's ever had. But, I mean, you know.
Nathan, you've never played Ocarina of Time to completion.
Not to completion, no. The farthest I got in that game was, I think, just a little village. Like, I think I got to the point where I could leave the village, and I was like, okay, I'm done.
You walked down the field. If you get a chance, play that game on a 3DS. See that game in great visuals, and you know what? That game's not that long. I know you're slaying your backlog right now. Give that game 13 hours of your time. I think the reason why and this is my theory. Everybody else chime in. The reason why I think you haven't gravitated to the character is you didn't play A Link to the Past and you didn't play Ocarina of Time. And I think a lot of people that love Zelda, they love Zelda because they played A Link to the Past or they played Ocarina of Time. A Link to the Past was the Ocarina of Time before Ocarina of Time. I mean, there's an entire generation of gamers that said, I played A Link to the Past, and I saw it rain, and it was amazing, and I've played every Zelda game since. And then there's a whole separate generation of gamers that said, I played Ocarina of Time, and I got these stones, and I turned into an adult, and I saved the world, and I've played every Zelda since. I love Wind Waker. It's my favorite because of the mechanics and everything that's there, and the music and the characters. It would never be the first Zelda game that I would ever push anybody towards. Like Skyward Sword, it would never be the first Zelda I would ever push anybody towards. Twilight Princess would be one of the last Zelda games I'd ever push anybody towards. But in my opinion, if you love video games, there are a core set of games that you owe it to yourself to play through completion, and Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past are two of those games.
I agree. So just to go over some quick little factoids on the Legend of Zelda series that I found interesting when a whole bunch of articles came out about the 30th anniversary. Some things of note, just a couple quick ones. Link is a left-handed character for the most part. They changed that.
That's it. That's the reason why I can't. I got it.
Southpaw.
Thank you.
They changed him to a right-handed during the Wii releases only because of the way people were hold their nunchuck and Wii remote. But up until then, he had always been left-handed. So the whole theory about Link being better as a boy versus an adult, Shigeru Miyamoto had said one of the inspirations for Link was in fact Peter Pan. So the whole perpetual boy but still a hero kind of thing was inspired by that. And the Princess Zelda was actually inspired by the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby, whose wife's name was Zelda as well. So a lot of her visuals was taken for that and applied to the Legend of Zelda series. One that most people know, Robin Williams was such a big fan, he named his daughter Zelda after that. And he had said numerous times to Nintendo that if they ever wanted to do a film iteration of the series, he wanted to voice Ganon himself. So Japan got, this one I find really interesting and I'm really actually jealous about. Japan actually got a 16-bit remake of the original Legend of Zelda that we never got stateside that I would have loved to play. So you imagine the visuals from A Link to the Past, but it was applied to the original Legend of Zelda game. So I think that would have been awesome. They had it, but we did not get it. And they even added the Link grunting and hayas and everything to that as well, too, on top of the graphics. 75 million Legend of Zelda games have been sold to date, not counting Twilight Princess, which is upcoming. So that's pretty interesting. It's one of Nintendo's top-selling franchises, obviously, with Mario and all the rest. Let's see. And another thing with the wacky timeline of the Legend of Zelda games, so obviously if you've played through a bunch of them, it's kind of hard to piece together what it is. It's a different hero every time, but they know the story of the former heroes and whatnot. They have said that the original Legend of Zelda and then the second one, Link's Adventure, are technically the last games in the storyline. Because at that point, Link had already failed to stop Ganon's rise to power, which is why he's already in pig form at that point and has the Triforce. So it's kind of interesting. They kind of Quentin Tarantino this whole series and say, here's the ending. Let's go back and see how we got there.
The timeline.
I wish they never did that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting take on how they did it. And Shigeru Miyamoto credits his parents' poor parenting skills for the inspiration as well. He was allowed to kind of venture into nearby caves as a child, and that kind of inspired him to create the dungeons of the Zelda series as well. So, yay for Shiggy having some bad parents overall.
Are we not going to talk about Majora's Mask at all?
No, I think we're better off just leaving that, honestly.
Yeah, I can't comment on that one, so...
I will comment on that one. I hate that game. I want to say that because I claim to be a huge Zelda fan, and I know that's a very divisive game, and I don't want to sound like a Zelda homer. There are Zelda games that I don't like, and Majora's Mask is one of them.
Yeah.
All of the great things that I love about Zelda, about roaming and exploring and finding hidden paths and everything, goes out the absolute window in Majora's Mask. And people will say it doesn't, but it does. Because there's a timeline on it, and there's a clock. And if you go and explore, you're basically punished for doing so because you're not accomplishing your mission and you're wasting time and you'll lose all of your progress if you don't get back and save. And you got to constantly play songs. And if you don't start the temples in time, I hate that game.
And the moon will kill you. The moon will kill you.
It's tedious and obtuse, and it's so sad because the game is beautiful. I love purple. It's my favorite color, and that game is very purple. And it's got pinks and it's got bright reds. It's very... I would say Japanese artistically style it reminds me very much of like a Xenoblade game. I love the visuals in that game and the music in that game is great, but God, do I hate to play that game. So Nathan, if you've never gravitated towards Zelda, maybe you should play Majora's Mask.
Wait, what?
Maybe he'll actually play all the way through.
He might. He'd be like, this game's amazing.
Right?
But if there's people I gotta go talk to them, and then I'll be like, I can't save the world. It's like in Mass Effect, right? When the world, the universe is gonna end, but dude's like, hey, can you go to this one random planet and get my war Bible? And it's just like, what?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Our whole final battle is going to take place on a ship, but let's go recruit more people as if it matters at all. Are you prepared for the final battle? Anyway, all right, so Legend of Zelda, 30 years old. Happy birthday, Link. I think it's time to move on then. So let's talk a little bit of news before we dip into the mailbag then. So not a whole heck of a lot out in the news world, if you will. Things are a little bit slow, I think, gearing up for E3. But Nathan, you got any stories to talk about?
So, as a follow-up to something I said last week, because you know how I like to do these follow-ups, I'm going to make that a theme now. I need a theme song. Follow-up.
Throwbacks.
There you go, throwback. No, re-release. So
Remastered. It's a definitive
there you
edition.
go. Awesome. Anyway, I said last week that I was talking about the features on the Xbox One, and it was the January release. I meant to say February.
I even said that. I said that to you, and you said, no, it's released so late in January that they called it. I even pointed that out, man.
So I think it's because it was the January preview member list, but it was finally actually released to the public in February. I think I was getting my dates messed up. Anyway, I just wanted to follow up on that. Second thing that I wanted to bring up is that there's not a lot of Xbox news right now, but after you listen to this, most likely on March 1st, there's supposed to be some big Xbox announcement. So there's been rumors and speculation about what it's going to be about, but suffice to say that whatever it is big enough that Microsoft invited a whole bunch of press on Thursday out to San Francisco to preview whatever it is, and Phil Spencer gave like a keynote address pretty much to this group, and they're all embargoed and they can't say anything until March 1st. So keep your eyes peeled and see what's announced March 1st in the Xbox realm.
And at the same time, it'll be released on PC, and Phil Spencer will tear people apart on Twitter as well, so, you know.
Well, so that's the whole rumor, is that there's going to be interconnectivity or interoperability that's furthered between Xbox One consoles and Windows 10 PCs. So it's really kind of vague. Obviously, no one is talking because nobody wants to lose their job by breaking the embargo from Microsoft, but it's weird. Why, if you announce something to everybody, like the major news outlets, why don't you go ahead and say, okay, you guys got a couple days, get this thing ready, and then if you want to go ahead and put it out, you can. Why do you embargo that, right? It's news, it's information, and the more that there is information being trickled out, the more social presence you get, like in Facebook and Twitter. It makes more sense to me to get to own the conversation longer than to put it all out at the same time by all these news outlets, and you still only own a certain amount of the time of that social media presence. It doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. I mean, they get people that are paid a lot more than I am to analyze these things and to market them, so I'm sure that I'm missing something, but it just doesn't make sense.
My theory is that maybe the news isn't so major. I've heard for a long time that they're going to have cross support with apps in the Windows 10 store, which would be fantastic for Xbox owners. I think your Xbox should double as a PC because it is a PC. You should have all the functionality of a laptop on Xbox because they are literally the same components. So I think it's good news for Xbox, but I don't think that's major news. I don't think saying like, hey, these Windows 10 apps that you've been enjoying on your laptops, you can now do them on your Xbox and maybe some game stuff. I don't think it's major news. I think it's an improvement. I don't mean to demean the announcement. I just don't think it's major news. Like backwards compatibility was major news. I don't think this is major news. So I think by saying, hey, we're having this private event and we're going to talk about some stuff that you can't know about until Tuesday. What do we already have going on right now at the PSVG podcast? We got Nathan going, there's some announcement coming on Tuesday, and it's got everybody saying, there's something coming on Tuesday. You hear that Xbox One? Something big's coming, and they're now owning the conversation. So when you said it'd be nice to own the conversation longer than the announcement, that's exactly what they've done. They've already done it. You just don't know what the announcement is.
See, I got 2 points on this. Number one, I kind of side with Nathan here that they should be talking about it now. Let's face it, with the industry, we're talking about here on a weekly basis, it's not something that's normally fueled on news on TV. It's not normally fueled with newspaper articles. It's all internet-based, social media-based, and when do gamers have the most time? The weekend. So it seems kind of weird to push it farther away and put it right back smack dab in the middle of the work week when we're all busy and don't necessarily have time to follow along at home and see what's going on. Personally, what I think it is, I definitely think it is tied to the whole PC component, but what I think it is, it's something they talked about last year's E3, which was the ability to basically play your Xbox games on your PC, through your wireless network, whatever the case was when they talked about it, which in this event, it is big news, but also it's something I think they'd rather get out of the way now and talk about, so that way when E3 rolls up, they could talk about bigger things, hopefully some massive, first-party games that are going to be exclusive to, Xbox and PC, whatever the case is. But I think they want to focus on the games, maybe the hardware, as opposed to additional functionality that's going to be added that they already talked about a year ago. They obviously want to talk about it again, but they don't want to necessarily use up that stage time or that presence right then to talk about something we already know about, but don't have the full details yet. That's just my 2 cents. That's what I think is where it's going.
We've already been able to play Xbox One games on Windows 10 for a long time, though. Since at least middle of whenever Windows 10 came out, we were able to play it at that point because of the Xbox app on Windows 10. So it can't be that, but at the same time, what you say may have some credence because I did receive an email from Microsoft today because I am an Xbox Preview member that basically the headline is try the beta app on Windows 10, the beta Xbox app. So I do know that there is a release app that I have installed, and there is a beta app that I also have installed on my Xbox or on my Windows 10 PC, but I haven't checked it out yet tonight to see if there's anything different or anything in it. But I mean, it has to be something with Windows 10 and just making it kind of more of the same home. But at the same time, yeah, you're right that Xbox One is a Windows 10 device just with a different interface than a typical PC. The PlayStation 4 is also built on the same architecture. It could technically run Windows if you wanted it to. It's just running a different customized Sony OS. But I'm really curious to see what they're going to do, what the announcement is, because Microsoft is really interesting in the fact that they have the console, but their bigger market, quite honestly, is Windows. Mm-hmm. Windows is on every PC. Like, unless you have a Mac or a Linux system, you have Windows. And I think Microsoft is shifting their focus maybe from the console market back to the PC market. And I think that makes people like Jason probably pretty happy because he's a PC gamer. I'm more of a console guy. But Jason, what would that do for you if Microsoft then says, hey, all these great games on Xbox that you played before? Like, let's say they have Xbox 360 emulation that they're going to introduce with the Windows app on Xbox on Windows 10. What would that mean for you?
Well, I mean, my 360 games would actually get played again instead of collecting dust like they are right now. I guess not a whole lot, honestly. I like to see some more of the cross-play opportunities that we're starting to see between Xbox and Windows. In limited capacity, I mean, there's going to be certain games that lends itself to a lot more than others. At least now you see, like, in shooters, on consoles we'll see some degree of aim assist, which kind of makes up a little bit for because, I mean, you've got a large discrepancy between accuracy between a mouse and a keyboard and a gamepad, at least in terms of I'll say snappiness and how you can more twitch reactions, things like that. But I don't know. It's kind of exciting. I feel a lot lately. Besides, the Wii U, I feel like I'm on an island a little bit when it comes to gaming. Most of the people
I see the island.
most of the people I engage with online and things like that, they're all either Sony guys or Xbox in Camp Xbox, and I feel like PC as a focus is really shifting from that, and it's from reasons like I hear people say too. It's just less accessible, unless you're into that hobby side of things, or I mean, as from a pricing standpoint too. I mean, nowadays if you want a rig that's going to run something comparable to what a console does, I mean, you're shelling out easily at least as much as a console does, and then usually quite a bit more on top of that.
Well, you're paying out more than that because, like, I think we both recently upgraded our video cards on our PC, and the video card that I bought, the video card itself was the cost of like a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One.
It was. That's what it came down to me.
That was just the card by itself.
I can buy a console, or I can buy the card. Yeah, exactly.
Does remote play do anything for anybody? My understanding is, because I had an Xbox One for some time, you could stream locally on your own network from your PC to your Xbox One. But if they have a remote play, like if you could literally remote play all of your Xbox One games on your laptop from somewhere else, does that do anything for anybody?
I think that would be cool. So in my home, I do sometimes use the streaming ability on my own network. But if they allow it to be outside of the network, you got two things, right? That then you're relying on is the network connection to your house, and then the internet provider for wherever you're at. Mm-hmm. I do think it would be cool to do that. Like, for perfect example, next week I am traveling. I won't be home at all next week. So let's say I want to play a game, but I'm not home. Right. If I have a Windows 10 device and I can do remote play, that would be really cool because I'd love to do that. But at the same time, a lot of the games that I would play, like let's say I was going to play Halo or something like that, which requires precision and quick reaction speed, that is not conducive to a remote play scenario. Because there is always going to be some sort of delay with remote play. And add on to that there's the lag built into a multiplayer game or anything like that. Within your own network, it's fine, but man, going outside of your own network and going over the actual World Wide Web to access it, I don't trust it.
The reason I bring it up is, to be honest with you, that is a major reason why I still own a Vita. I remote play my Vita because I work a lot of weekends and stuff, and I go on business trips quite a bit, and I really like remote play on my Vita. I play Resogun, and I play NBA 2K16, and I played The Order, like a third of the story on my Vita, and I know The Order is not Halo multiplayer, but I mean, I played Halo the Master Chief Collection. I could have easily played that game on my Vita, remote play. I think if anybody could really pull the execution you're looking for, Microsoft would be the team to do it way better than what Sony's done, and what Sony's done so far, I think it's pretty good.
That'd be cool. I mean, if they do want to implement that, I'm sure that they would be able to pull it off, like you said, because they have Azure, they have a huge, a backbone on which to rely. So if they did it, it wouldn't be popsicle sticks and Band-Aids, right? It would be a professionally done thing. I think it would be interesting. But I don't know. Like, I would use I have Windows 10 devices that I could use it with. I would definitely try it and test it. I wouldn't just discount it off the bat. But that would also mean I would have to have a Xbox controller with me, which I don't always carry a controller with me. But if that was the case, I would take one with me and give it a shot.
Definitely. I think only time will tell here. And let's not forget, too, Microsoft's always been kind of weird with their work week, if you will. Historically, actually, it starts on Tuesdays normally when they do their new sales and anything else like that. So maybe I don't understand why you wouldn't just announce it on then Tuesday if you wanted to do that mentality, but they might try to be dominating their own work cycle by putting the embargo until Tuesday. But we'll find out then.
I want my work week to start on Tuesday.
I know, right? So, all right. So for the sake of time, we're going to move on a little bit here because we're running a little bit long. So let's do one more news article and let's have our distinguished new member.
Ooh.
Jason, you got anything you want to talk about?
I can't quite recall if you guys mentioned on the show last week, but I don't think it quite hit yet. But just the local trend now, HTC, all the details dropped on their VR solution, the Vive. So we got an official release date on that, which will be April 2016, with pre-orders going up in 3 days from now on the 29th. And I think the main thing people are really talking about is the price point of this thing, which is going to be $799.
Yeah,
does that work with a PC, or what does that work with?
Yes, it's PC. I'm not quite certain on all different platforms. I know it will be PC, and it has, at least coming with it, it has a type of motion tracking, and it comes with they call it just the Vive controllers, while in Oculus, you have to purchase that. I think you get like a Xbox controller, but otherwise you have to purchase that on your own. I'll just glance through this article and see if it says it has Steam VR compatibility. So I'm sure PC will probably be its main component, but I don't know. Like, the whole VR thing interests me, but I think I'm interested to see what PlayStation does, because I think that's going to be the more broadly adapted consumer product when it comes to that realm. Like, my friend Lucas has an Oculus Rift pre-ordered, so I'm looking forward to when he gets that. I'm just going to be able to check it out. So,
has he upgraded his computer yet? Because he's going to upgrade that bad boy.
He did get a new video card. So he sold his old one. He got a new one. So he'll meet, because he's just a tad above mine when it comes to his processor. So with that video card, he's right within the lower end of the minimum specs, but at least it'll run. So I like VR. I don't know. I'm intrigued by it, but I don't know how much that's something I really am buying into just yet. For me, like, my greatest fear is, like, I think it's gonna be really cool, but I'm afraid of, like, my body. I'm just gonna be one of those people. I put it on and I'm just gonna be like, nope, I'm done, and just get, like, motion sickness or something from it. But I like not just from a gaming point, but the practical applications that we might have for, like, educational purposes, or just even if you think about now, like, real estate or something like that. You'd be able to physically tour a house from remote location, things like that. So I don't know. Just that price point, though, it's just crazy. I thought Oculus was going to be steep enough, $500-$600, and now we got this thing coming up at $800. So I just really want to know what PlayStation VR comes in at, because I'm assuming you've got a bench, you had a baseline, you have a console that's doing all the work, while a PC you have all these different configurations. So, like, that headset will be able to be built just for that system. So I'm really interested to see how much that costs, because I have a feeling it's going to be significantly less than what we're seeing here, and I wanted to see how much that helps Sony's success trying to break into that whole realm.
So two things I think on that is that, when I think of VR for PC, I think of Oculus. I don't think of HTC. The name to me right now, as someone who doesn't really even pay attention much to VR stuff, honestly, is that Oculus is the one that I would want to check out if I was ever to check any of them out. But the second point is, so when you think of the PlayStation and their positioning, if you wanted to buy a PC Oculus set, like Best Buy has these things where you can go and buy a set of Oculus and a computer that will run Oculus, it's VR ready. The base models are like actually more like $1,200, right, for the base model with Oculus, which is not bad, quite honestly, for a rig that will run that and the Oculus. But PlayStation is poised to come in, and if they can come in with console and VR together, like $500 or $600, which I think you really need to be in that space for a console space, joined together, I think that could work really well. Otherwise, standalone unit, I don't see them selling a $300. $300 is like the breaking point. I don't think they can sell more than $300 unless it's somebody who's diehard who wants to get in on it. If it's someone who was really wanting to get onto Oculus, but the $600 price point is just not feasible, $300 half the price, or $500 or $600 with the console, that makes a lot more sense.
It definitely does. I think Sony has to come in with whatever they're going to do under the $300 price mark. I'm with you on that for sure. HTC, when I hear that, I mean, they make great hardware, but they make cell phones. So It's a little weird to see them coming out, with it to begin with, and then to sit there and say, we're going to charge, $700-$800 for this thing on top of it, when, I mean, Samsung did it too, and theirs is worth like $100, and you just slap your phone in it and you're good to go. So people need to realize, so VR, whether you love it or whether you hate it, whatever the case is, it's going to come in some way, shape, or form. But the thing is if they want to take it seriously, it needs to be affordable, because we have to remember the developers who are going to make software for this thing, if they're not going to make sales, they're not going to continue to make them. So it could work fantastic. HTC might have this beast of a machine, but if nobody's able to buy them, and there's no content because of that, developers are going to give up on it really quick, and it's going to be something that's going to be dumped. So I think if the PC market, and I mean, PC, you can get games on the cheap anyway, thanks to things like Steam and stuff, so it's definitely possible to get your content at a better value. If the consoles don't make it affordable, plus the content, not being ridiculous, I don't see it lasting personally, but it definitely needs to be $300 or less in Sony's mind. And I don't think the HTC option is really going to compete with Oculus Rift or whatever that's going to do, just because that price point, it to me, it's way too high. Way too high.
I think Sony's PlayStation VR is going to be $399. And I say that as a consumer that watched Xbox launched Kinect, I believe, at $199 or $149, and then only to watch it drop over years. So 3 years later, you could get it for like $50. I think we'll see that with PlayStation VR. I think there's enough hype and groundswell support for the folks looking for that next big thing that I think they will do reasonably well at $399 for small sales numbers. And then as they adopt it and spread the word, I think you'll see more people jump on it, and I think we'll eventually see a quicker price cut on that than we have on the console itself. Also, remember, PlayStation VR doesn't run exclusively off the console. It has like an additional box that you actually have to plug into the console, kind of like an add-on support for processing power. So it's not completely dependent upon what the PS4 can push on its own. Remind me, the HTC VR, because I do get them all confused. Is that Valve's VR thing? Are they partner with that, or is that different?
I think that's the one, that they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about the Vive because I think their controllers are fantastic. Am I the only one that looked at those controllers and said, that looks amazing? That looks like the VR controller, at least for me. I mean, it's got a little joystick, a little ring, it fits around your hand. It looks very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very intuitive. It looks like you're moving your hand. It's not holding a controller. It doesn't break the experience. Your hands aren't tied together. It's not PlayStation Move if you've ever played oh god, like so I think the Vive has a leg up in that regards, but I also don't think Oculus is the gaming VR. I think Oculus has some gaming demos, and I think Oculus will show you that you can play games on Oculus, but I think Oculus, with its Facebook money, has bigger visions for VR than gaming. I think that Facebook connection and being able to talk to people and put your headset on and be in the same room together, I think that's a real-life thing. I think that's something very I think that's low-hanging fruit for the VR dream. I think multimedia, putting a VR headset on your face that sits comfortably and plays well and doesn't make you sick, and watching a movie on an airplane is something that could absolutely be a blue ocean type of sales tactic to really push VR to the masses. I mean, you think about it, TV sales over the last decade have really fallen because there has been no great leap in TV since, LED? I mean, we have 4K, but 4K isn't selling gangbusters. VR might be the next TV. I mean, everybody's got a flat screen, but if I know my daughter, for instance, my daughter, she watches everything on her tablet. She has a TV. She has a 32-inch flat screen that I bought her, but she watches everything on her tablet because she likes that personal experience. She sits there and watches it. When I look at VR as just a product for the masses, I could easily see people buying a VR like they buy a cell phone, and that this is my entertainment hub that I can watch. So I'm not sharing the experience with everybody in the room, or I'm not taking over this entire space. It's more personal. I want to watch my show, my movie, my experience right here in my headset, where I think it's very different for Sony, because Sony is literally saying this is a gaming space. And the thing that concerns me with what I've seen from Sony VR so far is I haven't seen a game worth playing or worth that purchase at all. I mean, to be honest with you, in my opinion, I haven't seen anything that makes me go, oh man, I gotta buy VR. And I know everybody's like, No Man's Sky is coming to PlayStation VR. That's not doing it for me either.
If there's a Star Wars game, I will be there.
I was going to say, whoever licensed X-Wing versus TIE Fighter VR, that's what's going to move all
That's
those
going to make you all sick. It's going to be like that Family Guy episode where everybody's puking all over the living room.
I've already got the flight stick. I've got the throttle. I'm ready.
And you heard it here first. Donnie's opinion, VR is going to make kids more antisocial than they already are since 2016. So,
Does anybody think VR is going to make anybody more social?
Well,
no. It's strapping a helmet on your face.
But I mean, if you need to do that to get your content directly to you, I mean, you either think really high of yourself, like nobody else can watch me play this. It's like, dude, everyone's gonna be staring at you when you walk around the living room with this big helmet on. Your neighbor's walking by, walking the dog. Like, look at Nathan. What the hell's he doing?
Well, to be fair, right? Even with cell phones, even though we're not strapping them to our faces, you walk into a restaurant. People who are sitting with other people are both looking at their phones. It's as if they're already in this VR environment. They're just not directly attached to their face. I mean, it's not that big of a stretch.
They walk around with headphones. I know I do. I walk around my business. I work for a government, so we have a very large building, and when I'm out for lunch, after working all morning, I literally put my headphones in and I walk around, and that's kind of me letting people know, like, hey, I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm on my lunch break. I want to enjoy my radio or my music, and I kind of want to zone out on my own. It is kind of my anti-social norm. I don't think it's crazy to think 25 years from now there might be a bus somewhere with 10 people on it sitting with a VR headset watching their TV show as they ride to work.
It's funny. My wife did a piece of artwork that hangs above on our wall in our bedroom that says, "There's nobody I'd rather lie in bed next to and stare at my phone with." So it kind of reminds me of that too. So not to make light of it, obviously there's a couple more news points we just want to quickly touch on before dipping into the mailbags. We got some interesting questions this week. Capcom announced that they're re-releasing Resident Evil in 6, 5, and 4 in that order to next-gen consoles for Xbox One and PS4. If you didn't play Resident Evil 4, I think that's probably, in my opinion, the only one really worth playing again. However, from the trailer, it didn't look like they did a whole lot of upscaling for it, so it'd be interesting to check out.
So 6, then 5, then 4.
Yep, they're doing a reverse order. So I think what they're trying to do is get the worst one out first and then try and get better as they release them. So
Are they trying to do the Lucas thing here with the orders? They're trying to compete with Lucas?
Play Resident Evil 4 with a Wiimote. That's the best way to play that game.
Yeah. And then the other thing, obviously, we're going to dedicate an episode to this topic later, but we can't miss the announcement, too, that, Pokemon celebrated its 20th anniversary this week as well. Today they announced that Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon will be out this year. Like I said, I want to give proper time to that, so that'll be a discussion for another time with more members on board to discuss the Pokemon craze, if you will, much like Zelda. So I think without further ado, let's dip into the mailbag. And gentlemen, this is exciting. We have questions from females. Apparently we have some female audience members. It's shocking, I know, but hey.
That's what happens when you get Jason on the crew. And the ladies
He brings them out.
The beard is magical.
Wouldn't be the first time I've been told that.
And there they went. They left now.
We just lost them all. They're not even going to listen to their own question answered now. So whatever. But all right. So Gabriella wrote in and said, "I'm a big fan of Marvel. Overall, the TV shows, the comics, the movies, and the games, you name it. I'm a huge fan of them. What is your favorite Marvel video game to date?"
I'm out.
Really? You haven't played any?
Not any of really of noteworthy news. No.
Right, Donnie's favorite was Disney Infinity 2.0.
There you go.
All right, Jason, what's yours?
I'm going to go with a throwback, Maximum Carnage.
Oh, that was one of my choices.
Back on the Genesis. Green Jelly on the soundtrack, classic beat-em-up action.
Nathan, how about you? You got any other ones of note?
Back on the Genesis also, there was an X-Men game. I can't remember the actual name of it, but you could play as with you and up to 3 other friends, and it was kind of like a beat-em-up game too, where you could just walk through it. That's one game.
Side-scroller?
Yeah.
I played the game.
What? Do you remember the name of it?
I think it was called X-Men Arcade. Wasn't it an arcade
is that
game?
the one where Dazzler was one of the characters?
No, it was like Son of the Atom or something like that. Sons of Atoms or...
It was like the TMT...
Children of the Atom.
Children of the Atom, yeah. That's kind of what I think of. And it's definitely that Genesis era, right, that I kind of gravitate to, because Maximum Carnage was the first one I thought of too. But, I mean, you can also say Spider-Man 2, right? That is a great game for the time, and still kind of, I haven't gone back to it today, but I'm sure that parts of it will hold up well. As a whole, it won't look as good as some of their stuff, but, Marvel is really... They're poised to make an amazing game. It feels like they should have an amazing Iron Man game or something out by now, but I'm surprised that they haven't. I know that they've partnered with Telltale to make a story-driven game, and it was supposed to be out this year, I thought, in concurrency with Civil War, which would have been really cool, but I haven't heard anything about that recently either.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat as you. It's funny how you look at what, the Batman games were and everything else like that, and it's just shocking that they haven't had anything for all these franchises. In your mind, it'd be easy money. I know they did there was some sort of Iron Man game that came out. I know there was a Thor one that was absolutely terrible that came out after the first Thor movie.
There was a really good Hulk game that came out, though, for the original Xbox, I think it was. I think it was Hulk Ultimate Destruction or something like that.
Yeah, I think I know
a
what
great
you're
game.
talking about. Yeah,
The Lego game
mistakes.
I enjoyed. I mean, it's a Lego game, so I don't know if you count it, but the Lego game is
count it.
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, my personal favorites would have been definitely X-Men, the arcade game that played just like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones, or the Simpsons arcade game, if you remember that. Played the same style like that. Yeah, I think the arcade though actually had 6 spots that you can play with 6 different X-Men. It was a Nightcrawler, Storm,
yeah.
Cyclops, Wolverine, Dazzler, and Iceman. I think was the 6th one, if I recall.
Iceman.
So that was fun. I remember actually playing that in the arcades, and I know they put some version on consoles eventually down the line. They revisited it. Other than that, I cannot remember the names of it, but there was one, Ultimate Alliance, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Those games were good. I don't know how they have not done something like that since, because you had like literally almost any character you could think of, and you can make these fantasy team up of, Spider-Man and like Gambit on your team, or however you wanted to
Right.
organize it. And I think we're due for something like that again. But those would be my picks for my favorite Marvel games.
I can't remember if any of the devs that worked on that are the ones that are behind like the Marvel Heroes. Well, it's 2016 now that you have on PC. Their action RPG Diablo-like Marvel game. That's actually really fun too. I just haven't really played it. That's a free-to-play option as well, but really similar thing to what you get in Ultimate Alliance, but multiplayer.
Yeah, and they did the X-Men Legends too, which I think played just like Ultimate Alliance did. That was like the more recent one they did too. But yeah, I'm just waiting for like a next gen version or something like that. I think would be awesome. But we'll see. I think it's only a matter of time. Marvel's got to do something with it. I mean, the only other than the Lego games that come out, I think like Deadpool was like the last one that came out, and that came out well before the movie, so even that wasn't very timely. Anyway, so I mean, we'll see. So Sydney wrote in, and she asks, what would you think if they brought back Pac-Man?
Yes.
And how would you think they could adapt Pac-Man to current, gen standards?
The mobile game.
Where ghosts chase you.
The mobile game. I have it on my phone, and unfortunately my phone is turned off because I don't want anybody to call or ring in while we're doing our podcast. Somebody help me. The mobile game, it's like an endless runner Pac-Man game.
Yeah,
And it's
I remember.
freaking fantastic. It's so much fun. I love Pac-Man. My entire family loves Pac-Man. We have Pac-Man on our 360s. We've got the Pac-Man, is it Ultimate Edition? The 360 thing where you get like super powered Pac-Man Championship.
Like
Or it's like DX or something. That
it's
game
like a Street Fighter title.
that game is awesome. The 3D Adventure Pac-Man World game is not so good. I did buy that for my kids when it went on sale for like $7 on Wii U. That game's bad. But the original Pac-Man game, like Tetris, is a classic trope in gaming, and I don't think that'll ever get old. I think as long as you have a maze to run around and collect while ghosts chase you, that game has always have some sort of appeal. And the new one on mobile, and forgive me, I want to turn on my phone. It's like Pac-Man 2022 or something like that. That mobile game is really good. If you just want to sit there, while you wait for a doctor's appointment and flick your phone, it's really fun.
Yeah, see, I think keeping it the same style, like you said, that whole thing of like Tetris with the constant appeal, regardless of how old it gets, is definitely there. But I think it's Pac-Man 256 is the new one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but I think what I would like to see out of it, I didn't play the Xbox One, so it might already be like this, so forgive me, you guys can correct me if it's like that. I think giving Pac-Man maybe like a Resogun treatment, kind of upscaling it, but keeping it retro and neon kind of deal.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if they did something like that, there you go, so see, they do it, but do it again then. So I haven't played Pac-Man in a while. So I think the last time I played with Pac-Man was with Smash Brothers, so.
He's awesome.
Isn't there? There's a Pac-Man. I can't remember what platform it's on though, but it was multiplayer focused, where one person was Pac-Man and then the other played as the ghost.
I've never played that game.
They did it a couple times. There was a version you can do that back in the day on GameCube, where you actually connected your Game Boy Advance console to the GameCube. So the person who had the Game Boy Advance was Pac-Man. You could see your screen, and the other people were the ghosts trying to track you down. And I think they did an iteration of it on the Wii, if I'm correct as well. But I haven't seen anything in a while. But that was definitely a cool twist when that came out. I remember playing it with my friends, being all excited to hook up my my Game Boy Advance to the GameCube.
So what you're telling me is that Nintendo Land ripped off Pac-Man? Am I the only person that's played Nintendo Land?
I mean,
silent.
yes,
played it
yes
like
and no.
I have
15 minutes.
Nintendo Land.
I mean, Mario Chase and Luigi's Mansion sound exactly like that.
Yeah.
That is how you play both of those games.
It definitely was. I think Nintendo, though, actually helped develop that version on the GameCube because it was exclusive to Nintendo and it had to use, features that really hadn't been explored yet. I mean, the Vita didn't really exist at the time this came out, so the whole concept of a second screen was kind of new. So I think Nintendo actually co-published it with Namco at the time.
Cool.
But all right, so let's see. We got to get to David's question because he sent it in last week and we didn't get to it for sake of time. So David wrote in and asked, do you think that games this gen will go beyond the 4-player co-op limit that most games seem to have nowadays? So what do you guys think?
What most games have 4-player co-op?
Dead Rising 3.
Has 4-player co-op, like split screen?
Not split screen, but on like Xbox Live. Halo 5 has 4-player co-op, but on Xbox Live as well.
So we're not talking just local co-op. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's referring to couch co-op. I think he just means in general.
Forgive me.
I am not sure, like, when you think of couch co-op, I think the latest Call of Duty still has it, but from what I heard, it wasn't very good. Like, you had huge frame rate suffering issues for couch co-op, but a lot of games now, and this has been the trend since the last generation, where if you have a co-op game, it's not couch co-op. It's playing over the internet with somebody else in a different house or whatever have you on a different console at least. And that the console you're playing on, you get a full screen, you get fully dedicated processor power to your console, they get the full dedicated processor power to theirs, and it's a better experience for both of you. So I would love to see that kind of expand out, but really, in a way, it kind of already has when you think of, like, Battlefront, for instance, right? You have Fighter Squadron, let's say. That's a 10 on 10. It's multiplayer, yeah, but you are co-op with 9 other people, and there's AI in there as well, so, I mean, it's kind of co-op. It's still adversarial, but you're on your team with 9 other guys. I can't think of a scenario, though, that you could really have more than 4 people in co-op. Granted, we haven't been given that option yet, so we just don't know. That'd be interesting, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the logistics behind it would really be. But you're right. I think the only things I can think of would be examples of games where there's some sort of team-based or adversary thing. I mean, you look at games even like Splatoon where your team is 4 versus 4, but, I mean, there's 8 people playing. The last one that I remember personally playing myself, because I'm not huge in online gaming, but was the PS3. There was this game called MAG, if you remember, which stood for Massive Action Game. It allowed 256 players to play at the same time online, and there's just absolute chaos. So I think in the right application you could see it, but I'm not sure if there's a need for it to have more than 4 people on a team at any point. I think once you get to a certain point, you're not going to be able to follow what's going on even with your own teammates.
Right, and I think I'm right along those same lines too. It's all on the application. You know, what game is going to lend itself to that type of experience? And I thinking about it, like maybe you could have like some sort of flight sim. You know, you could have an entire squadron of human-controlled fighters, or even maybe again like some sort of. You can think of like your classic your action movies. You got your platoon of 6 guys that have to go behind enemy lines and save the world, type of thing. But otherwise, the more people you get in something like that, the tougher the balance, the more of a mess to try to control. So it's all going to depend on, like you said, like the logistics and the application of what can be successful in that sort of environment.
Was I the only one that heard Jason say your Splatoon of 6 guys?
I heard it too. I don't know if he actually said it, but I totally heard it. I was going to say something, but you beat me to it.
Freudian slip.
I'll briefly stand on this soapbox. Nathan's correct when he says that the experience is better because you're getting a better picture and visuals and performance, but I don't think the overall experience for the gamer is better. I miss local co-op. I miss playing GoldenEye with my friends, and boy, do I miss playing 4-on-4 local Mario Kart battles where you could see each other's screens. I saw that there's a PS4 game coming out that's literally built around the mechanics.
Screen cheat?
Yeah, where you
Yep.
can see your
I
other.
have that.
Is it good? Because I want to get it and I want to
Haven't
play
got
it.
to play it yet. We got it for Extra Life last year, and we were supposed to play it during the marathon, and then I wasn't around or I don't think we ever did. But
I mean, I played Rumbo this year on Wii U, which is a very co-op friendly game. Nintendo Land, as I just mentioned, is great when you have folks come over, folks that don't play video games that want to play. I mean, these are very simple games to pick up and get up and out of, and I think we missed that. And I mean, I played Halo 1 and 2 on the Master Chief Collection because I'd never played them, and I could see how those games were really fun to play with friends sitting next to each other, and how some of that is missed when you kind of, all retreat to your own rooms. One of the games that I really liked that I would kind of bring up was Battlefield 1943 on 360 and PS3. That game was running around with tons of people shooting and flying planes and everything, and I love that game. And it's actually one of the games I have on my list. Shameless plug. We have a Let's Play on PlaySomeVideoGames.com that we're going to run weekly, where you can go to our website, click on the Let's Play, and whatever code or information that you need to find us that we're playing, we'll be playing Saturday night. So if you want to come play video games with the PSVG crew, you can find us there. Tomorrow we're playing Smash Bros. If you're hearing this in time, but in the coming weeks we are going to play Battlefield 1943. I could see a game like that. As these consoles continue to expand, I'm starting to wonder how much further we can push visuals. I know that's crazy to think when you just look at how far visuals have come, but, visuals are looking pretty fantastic. With the VR on the cusp, we might hit a visual plateau going forward, and things like big, expansive worlds. I think of something like Fallout, where, Kevin, you're the Fallout guy, you play Fallout, and there's all these NPCs. What if all those NPCs were just actually people?
Oh God! If they ever made that where it was like an MMO of Fallout,
yeah.
Oh God, that would be insane.
Didn't they just try that with the Elder Scrolls Online?
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
So I could see games like that really expanding that base for multiplayer. Again, I wish more folks would put more emphasis on local co-op. I know I would play Splatoon a lot more if I could play 1v1 on team splat mode as opposed to that stupid balloon game they got in there.
No, I agree. Interesting segue, by the way, speaking on the Let's Play section of the site. So Nathan and I were talking earlier about kind of adding a new little segment to the end of the show, which we bounced around a few names. I think add-on content was a good name for it, where we're going to be able to, go ahead and plug where else you can find the work that we do, whether it be an article on the site or a feature on the site, or, hey, in the case of two of our teammates on right now, their own little side, not little because they're bigger than ours, but podcast projects they got going on. So I think we'll probably segue right into that. So one other reminder, though, since Donnie did remind me about Fallout, as I mentioned last week, if you guys are on the fence about the season pass for Fallout, reminder, as of March 1st, it's going to go up to $50. So if you're even considering it, just snag it for the $30 now while you still can. I already locked in mine, so I'm good to go. Don't wait on it because you'll just be kicking yourself later. Bethesda has always done fantastic DLC for Fallout. I'm not really skeptical about what they're going to do. I think, they have more besides what they've already announced coming out too, and for me, I've always been satisfied by it. So why pay more when you can pay $30 for it? So that's it for me. I know Don.
Why pay more when you can pay the $34?
Exactly. See, and I'm still with it. It's after midnight. It's amazing. So, Nathan, why don't you go ahead and plug what you want to plug, man?
So at PlaySomeVideoGames.com, this past week I have put up a couple articles. One is the games with gold for March. They were announced. And I'm not going to tell you what they are because I'm going to say go check out the article on the website. I put the two games that are coming out for Xbox One and the 360 titles. And just as a reminder, the 360 titles will play on Xbox One, so make sure you claim those as well. Another article that I put up was just recounting some of the Xbox deals for this week. So if you're interested in checking out some Xbox deals, there's some good stuff to be had over there. I put some highlights up there, but also have links to the full content, the full sales, so feel free to check that out. And as was mentioned, I do have a little side project. I like to talk about movies and other entertaining things in a little podcast I like to call That's Entertaining. You can find me on the normal podcast sites, and you can also find me on Twitter there at EntertainingPod, and personally at Sith Nightmare.
Awesome. So for me, I don't really have anything to plug on the site right now. I haven't really written anything, so shame on me. However, I am looking forward to. I will be hopefully doing a weekly installment, which I will be starting this weekend, Superhero Saturdays or Superhero Sundays. I don't know, depending on the day it comes out, I guess.
Nice.
Where I'll tie in any of the news as far as like the superhero TV shows, maybe some movie news, comics, and of course gaming related if anything comes out, and kind of just tying that into it. And eventually we'll bring up some non-gaming topics on the podcast too. So that's all I have to plug right now. Jason, go for it.
Oh, sure thing. So, as I mentioned at the start of the show, I do a podcast weekly called Fluxtaposed, kind of focused on some games, but geek culture as a whole. We talk on movies and other nonsense. Myself and my good friend Lucas, we have a YouTube channel spun off of that, which our main focus on there. We do try to do a monthly segment called Battle of the Beer, where we pick two different beers of similar style, drink and rate head-to-head, which is good fun. We do have a new segment coming along called the Free 15, and it's kind of like more of a Let's Play type series where we pick a random game from the Steam free-to-play library and kind of play our impressions on that, so look for that in the coming future. And my first article is a work in progress for the PSVG site. I hope to have that going up here in the near future, but that's all I got cooking right now.
Cool. Donnie, anything else you want to plug besides the Let's Play?
We broached a topic called The Greatest Games You've Never Played, and we focus primarily on last gen. I'd like to point you to an article I posted, a review that I posted on PlaySomeVideoGames.com for Box Boy on 3DS. I posted it. That game is $5. It's absolutely worth $5. I think most people spend more on a cup of coffee. Go buy that game if you have a 3DS. It's fantastic. I also want to plug that we have a forum on PlaySomeVideoGames.com. I work religiously on trying to get our website up to snuff with the latest and greatest. I do the best that I can with the resources that we have, and we've got a forum. So if you want to interact with us, you want to to ask us questions. If you just want to play a video game with just Nathan and not the rest of us, then that's the place to make Xbox. So let's play tomorrow. Come play video games with us. Talk to us in the forum and check out the site.
Awesome. See, cross one thing off my list. I don't need to plug the forum now at the end of this. So, as always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/PlaySomeVideoGames. We'll post news articles, kind of send in your question reminders, events when we do the Let's Plays. We've been posting the invites and the details on there as well. So make sure you're following on Facebook. Share with some friends. Rate us on iTunes. We want to get the word out, get more notice, bring more people into the fold, if you will. Our subscribers continue to grow. Our downloads have gone through the roof, as well as our site visits. So we're really excited that everybody else appears to be excited. So please continue to share. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next week. And remember, boys and girls, never stop gaming. Thanks.
In a world full of mazes, ghosts, and cherries, one man has to save his wife, Pac-Man.